real fast, I wanted to tell you about my new podcast, Upworthy Weekly. It's a lighthearted news podcast. It comes out on Saturdays, and I have forced my co-host, Todd Perry, to join me here to help me tell you about our new venture. Todd, why should they listen?
Well, I mean, a lot of people, they think, oh, it's the Upworthy podcast. It's just going to be sunshine and it's going to be unicorns. But you know what? It's really not that. Allison doesn't have the ability. She doesn't have it in her to actually be that person that I thought we were hiring when we did this show. But clearly, after just a couple episodes, the facade dropped. Okay. I thought, she's doing the Upworthy show. It's not going to be like, oh, neurotic, cynical Allison, but no, she's there. So, I try to counteract that with some of my good vibes.
I would argue that if one person is coming off as a little bit cynical and unhinged right now, it's not me.
It comes out every Saturday, wherever you get podcasts.
Bye.
Allison Rosen is your new best friend. Allison, with her good times never end. Allison Rosen, doing the wavy pencil dance again. Allison's your new best friend.
Hey everyone. Hi. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Allison Rosen is your new best friend. I'm sitting here in my studio, and as you know, if you've been paying attention, this is normally where I would be catching up with producer Tony Thaxton, the bad boy of podcasting. However, he has abandoned me to go play drums with his stupid rock band, Motion City Soundtrack. This is a notable episode though, because it is the last one without him, because he's coming back. So this is my final chance to badmouth him. Tony, I hope you have had your fun with your little rock band, and I hope you'll think twice. I hope and I know you've listened back because you produce all these episodes. I hope you've heard every bad thing I've said about you. I meant it all. Don't do this to me. And I hope it was worth it. Anyway, I am on the tail end of COVID. It has been pretty unpleasant. Those people who are like, oh yeah, my nostril felt weird for a day and then I was fine, had a different strain than I did because this one was bad. And I keep thinking I'm over it and I'll feel better, and then I don't. And so today I have felt kind of sick again, which is super depressing. And if I am spacey and weird this episode, I'm blaming it on that. Anyway, that being said, my guest who is listening to this, don't worry. I'll pull myself together in the next 10 seconds. I'm very excited to welcome to the show a very funny woman. She is a comedian. She is a motivational speaker. She is a lawyer. Please put your hands together for Ms. Jackie Fabulous. Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Dealing with the heat, but it's summer. So what can you do?
I should have also said that you have a very hilarious special called Menoplause, which people can get now on their streaming services.
Yes, Amazon, Apple TV, and the others whose names I forget right now.
They can find them. Just turn on your TV and it is probably right there. Okay, so yes, we started to talk about this before we started rolling, and then I said, wait, save this sizzling content for air. Sizzling, and we were talking about the weather. Okay, so I lived in New York for almost 10 years. You lived in LA for almost 20 years. And we both want to change places. Is that right? Because you're back in the Bronx now.
I'm back in the Bronx. I just miss California. Like when I moved October 2020, pre all this, and my only intention was just to get my life back on the East Coast where I'm from. Not to be like, okay, no more Cali. I wanted to come back and I have my friends there. I could have kept my apartment, but then the whole world was like, no, you need to stay in New York because no one's going anywhere. So now that the world is kind of, opening back up for all of us, I miss I miss being the bi-coastal chick. I miss being able to go there and come here, go there and come here. That's a blessing to be able to do that in general.
Yeah. And did you move back to your like childhood home?
Yeah, I'm in the home I grew up in. The only difference now is it's because my family's older. It's my house now too, legally, but I'm in the bedroom that I grew up in. So the teenage room that I was in, the first orgasm I've ever had in my life was here. So yeah, I laugh through it all because I'm very lucky and blessed to be in a very beautiful and comfortable home. But I'm 100 years old. I need my own place. So
yeah. So when I first moved back to California from New York, I was in my 30s. I was a full-fledged adult, and I moved to Orange County, which I know you lived in. We got to talk about Orange County.
Yeah.
So I moved back into the bedroom that I had grown up in, and I lived there for almost a year. And then I actually got a job in Glendale, and so I was commuting.
Yeah.
But it was it was so weird being back home as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you first got there, how did that feel?
It's still awkward. It's horrible. I'm not gonna lie. I'm very grateful because I don't want to ruin my karma. But it's trash. I have not been here for 20 years. My mother and aunt, who I left behind, and my sister, but more my mother and my aunt. They're of advanced ages now. So they're, if they were stubborn and hard-headed before, now it's a whole different. But I have to remember that this is temporary, and that I would have come here and stayed for a year and saved money because I was touring. But when everything changed, the touring changed, all the jobs ended, so everything imploded. And now I'm like, okay, now let me blossom like a tulip and get a place. And I bought a car, and that's one thing. That's how you know that I'm coming back. Because in California, of course, I had a car. But when I moved back, I'm like, oh, I don't need a car. I'm a New Yorker. Then I'm like, no. That girl's gone. I need a car.
I've heard it's like super hard to get a car right now.
Well, I bought the car, I think, a year. I haven't had it a year yet. It's been less than a year, and I got it right before everything got crazy.
Okay.
These things were just starting to make the news. Like, how come I can't find a used car? I went on Carvana, and right when we were still on lockdown, so I got there before it got crazy. Now, the idea that you can't find a car, well, in California, the dealerships are literally like next door to one another. I can't imagine that no one can find a car now.
Yeah, and apparently, in the same way that like if you own a home, people are constantly they're slipping notes under your door. We want to buy your house. I think people will pay top dollar for your car.
I had to curse a guy out, a real estate agent who was stalking this block. He came to the front door, rang the bell, and he was like trying to talk to my mom. I'm like, don't open the door for any strange man ringing the bell. So, but he's there talking to her through the glass. She's on the stairs. And I came down like, hey, get away from that. I had to be like, no. No one's buying this house. But these guys, they stalk old people.
Yes.
And it takes somebody who's not old to be like, I will kill all of you. Get away from the court.
Right. So over your shoulder, I see a caricature. What is the story behind this? Where was this
$5. I was going for a walk. I think it was a week before COVID shut down New York. I walked from Macy's to the Comedy Cellar, where my home club. Mm-hmm. And they have street vendors all over New York that do this for you. And $5. This is how my hair was. I was wearing this jewelry. I was made up because I was going to perform. And $5, a guy in a canvas in a chair in less than 10 minutes, and I was done.
I have to say, like, oftentimes caricature artists, they'll hand you it and you're like, thank you for this roast. But you look beautiful there.
Thank you. Every now and then I've had it done before, and I'm kind of like, wow, you're insulting me to my face.
Right. Yes. So when I lived in New York, my glory days, as I think about, and my podcast listeners give me, it's kind of like a running joke because I talk about it too much, but I lived near the Comedy Cellar for a little bit of time.
That's a cool neighborhood to live in.
Yeah, it was. It was a little crowded for me.
Oh, it's insane now. It's so much activity on the street. It's actually annoying.
Yes, that's kind of how I felt because I was past, like I wasn't a college student, so I felt like I don't need to live among the college students. Yes, exactly. So where in Orange County did you live?
When I moved to LA, I went to California to go to law school. The only school that would take me was Whittier in Costa Mesa. I rented a room out of some lady. Her name was Helen, out of her condo.
I know Helen. Just kidding. Helen, but I did live in Costa Mesa. This is nuts.
I know. I rented a room out of her very small condo, and I remember she was very nice, but she was so short tempered because of the hair shedding. Like, we shed hair. And if your hair is dark, for someone who, she was of mature age and gray and blonde, so her hair that shed, you couldn't see it.
Right.
Well, my hair shed because there was a one bathroom. She would lose her mind. I'm like, look, ma'am, I am a hairy person.
Yeah.
I'm doing the best I can. But she was the reason why I was able to move. I remember I cashed out my vacation pay from the job I had when I was here. I went to Cali with reckless abandon. Like, I'm just gonna do it. And just so, I was on, what's the street that's so popular in Orange County? Is it Costa Mesa Boulevard? I think it's called Costa Mesa Boulevard.
Are you thinking of Newport Boulevard?
It might be Newport.
Off the 55?
South Coast Plaza. That's
okay,
I was there. Yes.
Got it.
That was my mall.
It's a solid mall. There's South Coast, there's Fashion Island, a little further south.
They have designer, they have cheap, they have everything in there. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. So I lived in Costa Mesa for a period of time as well. Get out of town. Okay.
It's beautiful up there.
Yeah, it is nice. So explain to me how you went from law school to comedy.
I graduated law school and got a divorce like in the same year because I eloped while I was in law school. And I just didn't take the bar. I am not licensed to practice or help anyone. I can practice federal law. When you have the degree, you are a JD and you can practice immigration federal. You can't do state by state. You have to be licensed for that. So I just did stand up after work for fun. My girlfriend at my job, she told me, take this comedy class. And it was Judy Carter's writing class. I took her class, and my first show ever was at the Improv about 17 years ago. And I just did stand up after work for fun. There were no goals, no career goals. I didn't know you could make money at it. I mean, I've heard of those who have, but I'm like, I'm not really good enough. I didn't know. And in 2010, I worked at Caltech, Pasadena. That sounds prettier.
Pasadena.
I made it fancy, and they fired me. And that's when I decided to, I had to. I got unemployment for 5 years. Thank you, Obama. And I did stand up after work while I had a day job. So it wasn't until I got fired where I became full-time, whatever this is.
They launched you. Pasadena launched you.
Pasadena.
Why did you get fired? Why did Pasadena fire you?
I wasn't doing the job. Because you know how when you get really busy, most of the things that you plan for or pray for or goal list for happen. So as soon as I got that job, I got my first TV appearance doing stand-up, a contest, and a lot of auditions for commercials. And and like every day I was at lunch gone for like damn near 3 hours. So my boss called me in his office and said, Jackie, we know you don't want to be here. And I'm like, you're very observant, really. And then he said, why don't you give they were very nice. He said, why don't you just resign and go, follow your dreams? And I'm like, because if I resign, I will not get unemployment. Y'all know that I have a law degree. If you want me to leave here, you got to toss me out. So 2 weeks later, he called me back into the conference room and gave me the speech and a little manila envelope from HR. And they were like, all right, we're going to let you go. And I'm like, thank you. That's what I've been waiting on. That's how it happened.
So you were like, it's your move, bitch.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm not going to leave. You guys, no one leaves a job voluntarily when we know about unemployment. Dummies.
Right. I quit a job. Just I had been leading up to like it had been a long time coming, but like one day I just kind of woke up and I'm like, today's the day I'm going to do it. So I Googled, how to quit a job or something. And I read something about, here's the letter that you write HR and here's how you do your exit interview. And so I wrote this very vanilla, bland, like, thank you for this opportunity. And then the advice was to give a very down the middle diplomatic exit interview, which I look back on and I think, did I have to do that or could I have been more honest? But never. So that's what happened. And then later I found out there is a strategy about if you are getting benefits, which I was, insurance wise, there is a strategy about what time of month you should put in your notice. And I wish I had known about that.
You can hold on to your medical benefits depending on how long you've been there. But I think for a fee, like sometimes you have to pay a minimal amount
It's
I think
expensive, I think,
yeah,
Cobra.
it's like,
yeah.
I remember when they gave me that option years ago. It was $400 back then. I can't imagine
Yes.
what it's like now to hold on to your benefits after you've been let go someplace.
I think it can be really expensive. But no, this was just something as simple as like I would have had and like not putting in my notice at the beginning of the month or the end of the month. So at least I would have had the rest of the month or something like that. That was when I was young enough that I remember having an argument with my parents because they're like, you need to get health insurance. And I'm like, but why? I'm young. You know, now the idea of not having health insurance is like, are you insane? But back then it was just like, but I'm just throwing money away every month. Anyway, okay. So you grew up in the Bronx. You went to law school in California. What attracted you to the law initially?
Just that was the goal as a child. That was the job. What do you want to be when you grow up? I'm always like lawyer, attorney, lawyer from TV shows.
Mm-hmm.
No one in my family has any experience working in it. I just remember watching soap operas back in the day, and they had all these lawyers in it. I thought it was going to be Law and Order. Part of the reason why I was disappointed when I got a law degree and started working in the field. I'm like, this is not. There's no Mariska Hargitay. I thought I could wear like a cute, sexy suit and have an affair with the judge. It's not. There's nothing fun. It's not TV. It's all paperwork and kind of scary.
Yes. Now, are you an SUV fan of all the different franchises? Because that's my favorite. If I find myself, it's been a while, but occasionally I would be stuck on a JetBlue flight and it would just be Criminal Intent. And I'm like, this is my least favorite of the Law and Order ones.
Criminal Intent. What I don't like is that they would let you know who and what did what. Like in the beginning of them, I'm like, why are you letting us know who the killer is?
Yeah.
What's the point of sitting in here for another 45 minutes?
I can pretty much only do SUV.
Yeah, SUV.
Oh my God.
I know.
That's
SUV.
Hello, COVID. I'm blaming that on COVID. I can't believe I said SUV. I used to be smart. I swear to God, 2 weeks ago, I was not that smart. But before that, SVU. Oh my God, this is truly humiliating.
That's
SVU is what I mean to say.
Yeah. I love that one. And that like the old originals with Sam Waterston. Is that his name?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I love the old ones too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and what soap operas?
The one that I watched when I was a child that made me want to try being a lawyer, Ryan's Hope.
You
remember that one?
Yes. Yes, with Siobhan and
Jillian was the lawyer. You remember?
Yes.
Well, somebody who knows who remembers that.
I know Ryan's Hope. And because I thought it was called Ryan's Soap. My parents watched Ryan's Hope and All My Children. So this was on from the time I was teeny tiny.
Yep.
I'm trying to remember anything. Yasmin Bleeth. Wasn't she on Ryan's Hope?
Yasmin, isn't she Baywatch?
Yes, but I think she had been on Ryan's Hope.
Probably.
I think
Remember
so.
Greg and Jenny on All My Children?
Yes, I do. Didn't it plane crash?
I think so. I don't know, but I was so not sexually active when that was like the thing. Mm-hmm. But I was so young, like I'm turned on by these two. I'm not sure why.
Okay, so speaking of sex and sexual things, I listened to and I also should have. Again, I'm going to, in the same way that I'm blaming SUV on COVID, I'm going to blame my not introducing you very well on that too. I should have mentioned that you host a podcast called Relatable with Jackie Fabulous, which is very good and very relatable. And I listened to your most recent episode, the gay one, where you had a bunch of comedians on who are gay, and you talked to them about their lives. Mm-hmm. And it was so good and it was moving. And I just was so impressed with you as an interviewer and as just a human. And I thought it was so well done. And I relate in the title, I related to how curious you were. And I feel like a lot of people maybe wouldn't feel comfortable asking such, maybe personal questions. Yeah. Did you have, but I like that because I feel like you asked the questions that I think people want to know, but maybe feel like, is it okay to ask? I mean, for people who are wondering what we're talking about, like you asked like really specific questions about like, how do you get off? How are you guys having sex? Like, how do two gay men indicate that they want to like go have sex? How is this happening?
Yeah. Because you know why? Because years ago, I used to be surrounded by gays. I don't know what happened, but like, I guess COVID and being a stand-up comic, they're few and far between now. But when I was growing up, I always had gay friends, gay coworkers I'd be in their lifestyle, hearing the day-to-day occurrences. So as the older I'm getting, the more I'm like, is it still that way? Because I don't have the friends in my life anymore. But I do, I have comics who are like that. But a comedian's point of view is always going to be extra open and honest, maybe TMI. So those guys that I asked, I knew they would tell me the truth. I knew that I knew that if I was worried, I could let them know, hey, I'm kind of nervous. Is it okay if I ask you A, B, and C? Because I had an episode maybe 2 years ago for all trans comics. And I approached it with the same, like, hey guys, I'm clueless. So I might not be as much as I think I am, but I'm gonna pretend I am so you guys can teach me. And I asked them a lot of questions, and I did ask at first, like, do you guys mind? Because I'm gonna really be like, so, what's going on down there? And I remember Jay McBride, she hates the question, but she knows that's going to be the number one thing on most of our minds. Like, so your anatomy. But I also learned through her that it's not proper to ask unless they let you in the door first. You know? So these kind of episodes are primarily because I'm like, this is new for me too. And I'm progressive. So I want to know, how progressive can I be without being a dumb, too intuitive or too curious.
Right.
Like, something you got to just research yourself.
Did you learn that on the episode or in talking to her before the episode? Did you learn that you can't ask that question?
I wouldn't even know that. I wouldn't say that I can't. It's her reaction that made me understand that is a question you got to approach with caution.
Yeah, so, but was that on air though, or was that
on air? Yeah, and I've asked her in private too, but we're always joking around.
Right.
There's never any straight answer. So that also taught me maybe it's not my business. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, see, I think so I'm also a very curious person, and I always want to hear people's stories. And sometimes if I have someone who is gay on my show, I will want to, or oftentimes, if it's germane at all to like what we're talking about, I'll want to ask about, what was your coming out journey? What was that like? Because I always know like that's such a formative part of their life and
one of the challenges. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no way that like wasn't something that was in some way difficult and scary and all that. But I have had people say to me that you wouldn't ask a straight person, when did you realize you were straight? Yeah. So then that makes me think like, is that a question that I shouldn't be asking? Am I othering this person by always making a thing of it? So that's just something it's sort of been on my mind.
I kind of think that there's a level of tolerance for those in the LGBTQ, NPTIA, LGBTQ, not P. Is it P? LGBTQ. Is it LGP or B? I know it, but I'm getting it wrong. LGBTQ, IANPT. Don't ask me all of them. I just learned some new ones.
I didn't know there was an NPT.
NPT, I remember it's Native American, and you have to research it, but that's part of why it's the NPT. And then there's P, and then there's T. And I remember Marsha Warfield, the legendary comic, explaining what the N stood for. So my point is, I'm always learning, and they know that this level of interest, unfortunately, and education is kind of new. So I find that those in that community, they're like, look, we know that you guys are back-asswards about this, and we're going to allow you to be curious for a few more years. But after a while, it's our job to understand.
Yes.
It's not their job to speak anymore.
Yes, someone just let me know what the expiration date on my curiosity is. Yes, I did. I did have a lesbian guest though say to me like, I don't think there's anything wrong with someone being curious and trying to understand someone else's life. And lifestyle.
I don't think that's okay, but don't let it overpower like your desire to like meet new people and have friends. And like I would love to know, but I'm also okay with not knowing. I'm also like, dude, if we vibe, I don't really. You don't care whose dick I suck when I go home. So why would I care?
Right.
What you're doing when you leave me? We're here now in the present.
Right. Okay. So going back to your story. Okay. So you go to law school, and you said you eloped.
Yes, in Vegas.
Vegas.
Yeah.
But then this had something to do. how did that relate to comedy?
I moved to California in 2000. I got married, I think, that same year, and I got divorced less than a year later. And so I was just single, living in Cali, working jobs. And then I tried stand up in 2005-ish.
I see.
So it was stand up and a full-time day job wherever for 5 years. But then in 2010, Caltech said, "Don't you come back here again."
Right. In Pasadena.
So that's when I became a full-time entertainer. Yeah.
Got it. So what was the deal with that guy?
The first one? I met him in college in volleyball class. And I remember we exchanged numbers. Nothing happened. We were best friends for like 2 or 3 years. No romance. And then, of course, like every corny movie, something snapped in my head. And I'm like, oh, I love this guy. And we dated for a long time. And that was part of why it didn't work out. We dated too long. Because after about 4 years, I was like, hey, dude, what's up? Either piss or get off the pot. And he was like, ah. And that gave me the motivation to pack up and move to Cali. Because I'm like, look, I've been in New York my whole life. And I have a man who won't marry me. I'm just going to move. And it's when I moved that he was like, oh, you were serious. So when I moved, it got all dramatic and, why'd you ever leave me and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I forgot. Did I answer the question? I feel like I'm going on and on.
Well, the question was, so what happened with, it was my eloquent question was, so what happened with that dude?
We grew apart. That's primarily it. He had a lot of emotional issues, a lot of, not being able just to handle communicating what was going on with him, a mentally ill mother, just a man who couldn't talk to me about anything. And he held grudges a lot, which I don't believe in.
Yeah.
So, and he wouldn't get serious about me until I already felt like, oh, it's already over. I should have married him. So that's kind of what happened.
Do you feel like the fact that it took your moving, and this is less a question about you and him than just a relationship in general question, because I imagine there's some listeners who could relate to this.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the fact that it took you up and moving to California for him to all of a sudden realize his feelings was a red flag?
Not even a red flag, more of a red flag for me. I put more of the blame on me than him that I stayed in it too long. Because I was madly in love for like the first 2 years. And then I remember getting restless and kind of like, all right, well, why are we dating? Yeah. And then after I stayed with him so long because I was comfortable. He saved me from having to be out there with my girlfriends who were just, looking for men, couldn't find them. And I had a big, beautiful one. So I was kind of like, hey, I feel safe, and at the time my father was alive. He died 5 years ago. So I had my dad and my boyfriend. So I was kind of like in a secure little man bubble. But it wasn't until I moved that I was kind of like, I was no longer in love with him. But I still married him because I'm like, well, he's been in my life so long, may as well. And that's the wrong reason to, wrong reason to marry someone.
For comfort. Yeah, I know. I think there's, what do they call that? There's also the sunk cost fallacy, right? The idea that like you've put so much time or money into something.
How dare he leave and go find someone else who enjoy the building that I built. Yep.
So I looked at your Wikipedia page and you have a fantastic last name that you were born with.
Yes.
Where did Fabulous come from?
No one can pronounce or remember my real name. My real name is Jacqueline Champagny, which is pretty, but Champagny is spelled like champagne, but there's an I between the N and the E. And this is what I have to go through all the time, like since kindergarten. Everyone says champagne, champagne. They all say it wrong. So that to me was a bad way to begin my career with a name nobody could pronounce, spell, or remember.
Right.
So that's really why I changed it. I wanted something more marketable and fun. It forces me to not be bad. Like you really can't suck with the name that I chose.
This is true.
It's embarrassing if you do.
You were on America's Got Talent. How was that?
Fantastic. Every minute of it was wonderful. It's a very well-oiled machine. The judges, the producers who worked in the back, I felt very taken care of. And it was fun. I was there for four rounds, which is a lot. And I was longer than I thought I'd be there. I didn't watch the show before I got on it because I didn't know how big it was. Then when I got on, I'm like, oh, everyone on earth watches this. I had no idea. So it helped. It helped me not be so in obscurity or, anonymous. More like, oh, we heard of her. She was on this.
Do you still get recognized from it?
Not as often, not unless, when the last, I think, not really, no. Probably not in like the last 2 years do I get like stopped. But probably pre-COVID, I remember I had an experiment. I wore America's Got Talent black hoodie on the airplane. And I did it all ego. It was all ego. I'm like, I want to see if anybody, and I wore it on the TSA line. And girl, when I tell you, it was the worst idea of my life. I'm like, oh my, I'm not even famous like that. And I'm so annoyed. Nobody talked to me again. Everyone was talking because they all recognized, they saw the name. They would look at my thing because it was very big font. They would look at that, and then they would gaze up and look at my face and be like, oh, because black woman, it's very easy to remember from that show.
Right.
So it doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's always a lot of fun because, and it can be annoying, but it hasn't been annoying for a long time.
Yeah. Wow. It's like, did you see that movie Soap Dish?
No, I have not.
Oh my God. Do you remember it? I mean, this is a long time ago.
The old one, yeah.
Yeah, with Sally Fields and Kathy Moriarty. I don't know why this popped into my head, but they they stage a scene where like she gets recognized and
I want to know how it felt. That's why I wore the I'm like, what does it feel like? And they were really like, oh, we know, because they saw the font and the brown skin, and they were, oh, we know who you are.
Well, that's cool that you can, like, anytime you need that, though, you have the hoodie and you can go to the airport. I
did it once. I'm like, I didn't think about that. Whenever I'm having like a low self-esteem time, I'm gonna wear that and go to run some errands.
Yeah. Okay, so you are you are a motivational speaker as well as a comedian, right?
Oh yeah. Do those things all the time.
Yeah. So when, and what, and what is that? What's that like?
The message is I inspire and influence women all around the world, showing them how to find the funny in their flaws.
Oh, I love that. So
my elevator pitch.
So like what kind of groups do you speak to?
Women, primarily women. And usually when I get hit up to do these gigs, it's usually a female organization or a female company. You can't tell men they can't come, but usually they hear all girls and they're like, I won't be there. So corporate events, like the last one I did was right when COVID hit. It was in Vegas at the MGM, the Women's Leadership Conference. It's once a year and it's like thousands of women. And I've been doing that like annually. And every now and then a company will be like, we want to have a morale meeting for our conference, whatever. So my messages are, because my message comes from my own life. I started stand up when I was 35. Even though I had a law degree and I got divorced, and I kind of teach women, like, you can begin again whenever you want. You can change your career whenever you want. You can go back to school. Because I always hear like, well, I'm going to be 50 by the time I graduate. God willing, you'll be 50 anyway. So my thing is just, do what you want with your life while you can, regardless of your family doesn't agree with it. They don't understand it. Your man don't want you to. It's really just empowerment for us to just live your life the way you want. And if we're happy, you will be happy too. You know what I mean? So the thing that we are embarrassed about, I teach us to laugh at it.
How did you arrive at that? Have you always felt that way?
I've always felt that way because I had to get over like a feeling of it's too late. Like when I started stand up, and it wasn't me who decided I should be a career comic. It was everyone else. That's like, you're funny, you should do this. And I'm like, I'm gonna start this new job now. I have degrees on my wall. I'm getting gray hair. How in the hell am I going to begin again? And when I did it, I'm like, oh, I'm actually happy. So I probably have found my calling. Because when I began stand up, you have all these bringer shows where you invite your friends and they all come out. So one of my first shows, I invited a lot of my coworkers from the law firm, and they watched my show. And when they were done, they all approached me and they were like, hey, this is what you should do for a living. We love you at the office, but girl, that is not it. So that's how I knew like I had a chance at this. And it came when I was, almost 40. And that's why I told them, I'm like, you have to find a way to make a living and fuel your own dreams because life is clearly too short.
I definitely feel the clock ticking a lot of times.
Yeah.
I think about these goals that I had. Sometimes I think like, are those even like realistic goals? I don't even mean realistic, like, could they happen in the world? I mean, like, are those even things that I still want? And then I think, but I'm too old for those. Like, those are like something like those are like a young person in Hollywood's dreams. Like I'm too old for that to happen.
Yeah.
I think about that stuff all the time.
It's not true. It's not. It's never. Everyone thinks that people are judging you, but everyone is consumed with their own lives and their own world. And if you decide you want to go back to school tomorrow, you may have opinions from your friends and family, but overall, it really is only about what you want to do.
Yeah.
But no one I don't think matters when it comes to like, what does Jackie want to do with her time and with her life? And no one else's opinions really matters because, it really is about what you want.
Mm-hmm.
People have opinions, but I spend so much time by myself, even though I have a family and I have a man in my life, but it's still like I have to be happier. None of those people matter.
Have you dealt with the people in your life having judgments about what you do?
My mother and father didn't get this because they're from, my whole family's, Jamaican. They came here from another country. And immigrants and mentality when it comes to coming to America is just get a job, get a house, marry someone, get some pets, and be quiet. And I was kind of like, I like the house and spouse part, but I also don't want a regular job because I get really bored. Mm-hmm. And you people tell you for years, like, if you're getting bored because you're not applying yourself, you're not trying hard enough, you have the potential. And I've been told that my whole life, like potential, and you got to, focus. And I'm like, maybe this is not what I should be focusing on. My resume is so long, my corporate resume of nonsense. Because entertainers have the ability to get jobs. We're suave. We're charismatic. So whenever I go to interview, I'll get every job I interview for. I'm not qualified to do any of the things. But I realized that stop going on interviews for jobs you don't like, don't want, can't do. Mm-hmm. What if you pour into you? And that's when I, realized, I'm a good comic. So why not ride that out? Plenty of people did before me, and died doing it. So why not? Why can't I? Even if I never reach what I think is, celebrity status or wealth, I still love the job enough to do it, to live on. I make enough to eat. And if I'm told right now, Jackie, you will never be a female Kevin Hart, I'm like, well, that's great. I like the job, and I've never liked any job ever because they're all garbage.
Do you? But do you wish that your parents could have understood?
No, I think everything happened the way it's supposed to happen. I don't think going back would have made a difference. Because when I did tell them, it was on a Thanksgiving trip. I was back here from Cali, and my mother and father drove to get me from the airport, and I was in the back seat, and they were asking the questions, how's Cali, how or whatever. And I'm like, you know what? Now's the time to let them know that I'm never going back there because they don't want me to. And I remember telling them in the car, and it was silent. It was quiet because they were like in shock. And I said, look, I got fired from Caltech, and I'm never going back. I'm going to be a full-time stand-up comic. And of course, in immigrant parents' mind, they're like, you've lost your damn mind. But I'm like, hey, you guys don't have to like it, but, I'm a grown woman. I'm going to do it. And that kind of rebellion feels good because, you're baffling your family. But I'm like, they don't matter. They lived their life already. It's my turn now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it might be time to do a segment that we call Just Me or Everyone, where people share things they think or do, and they wonder, is it just me or is it everyone?
Sometimes I ponder on something I have thought or done. Is it just me or everyone?
I'm getting married in November, God willing. And is it me or is I feel like there are extra couples out and about in the streets.
Extra couples?
A lot of horny people walking around who are either in love or just in love today.
Okay.
It's because I'm in love while everyone around me looks like they're in love, or
oh, right.
I'm imagining it.
Right. Like when all of a sudden you hear a new word and then you hear that word everywhere and you're like, is everyone using this word or am I just like noticing it more?
Yeah. Like it's like that deja vu where you kind of wonder, did it happen already or Is that
Right.
deja vu? I don't remember.
Right.
But yeah, I feel like there are a lot of couples out and about.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're clogging the streets because they're walking, embracing each other, and you can't walk in New York.
That's not okay.
No.
That is not okay to be like arm in arm if you're blocking foot traffic.
Yeah, especially in the village, because the village seems like the town for lovers. And
Yeah.
it's like, everybody get out the way.
Yeah. I don't know. Is it like I mean, it's very hot right now. So that doesn't seem particularly romantic.
No, it's true. But I think there's a thing where people, is it? No, cuddle weather. There's a term for when the season changes and you look
Yes.
for a partner based on the fact that, okay, it's going to get
getting cold.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
getting cold.
What is that
But-
called? It's like, I know.
Cuffing season.
Yes,
Cuffing
yes.
season. But summertime, spring and summer is known for the flings, though.
Yes.
They're known for I'm not going to see this guy beyond August, but I'm going to have a really good time in July. That
Right.
kind of thing.
So maybe it's, because you have wedding eyes.
Yeah. I'm just horny all the time. That could be it, too.
So congratulations on your impending nuptials.
Thank you.
How's the wedding planning going?
I just started taking it seriously, and I realized that you have to do it with a lot of advance notice. Who knew? Did you know you got to plan weddings ahead of time? Crazy.
So I had a similar experience. We started planning late. My husband and I were just talking about this recently. Like, why were we so wedded, no pun, to this particular date? Like, we decided like we have to get married, and then he was thinking like, was it a budget thing? Was it cheaper if we chose March versus a few months later?
Yeah.
But we were like, we're doing it in March, and we only had 4 months instead of however many months. So then I went to go look for dresses, and it's like I ended up buying, the one off the rack or something. Because it's like they need X many months to make your dress.
Yeah.
Which I didn't. Everything was messed up because we didn't have enough time, and we kind of did it to ourselves.
Yeah. It was supposed to be in September. And then when he and I sat down, we're like, that's in a couple of weeks. No one's prepared for anything.
Right.
So we picked November because it's not going to be cold yet. It's not going to be warm. You might have to wear a cute little whatever, but it's enough before winter gets here. Because summer, clearly, if you're going to get married when it's warm, you got to plan that shit in advance. Like Craig, everyone's busy or closed or booked up, or a restaurant that I want. Oh, girl, you wanted it in September. We'll see you next year. I'm like, oh my God.
Right. They're
People
like,
really-
summer 2024?
Yeah, exactly. It's like getting married is a real thing.
Yeah.
Oh, and we're going to do it at the courthouse, and you got to make an appointment at the courthouse. All the courthouse dates that I want. I'm like, why? How come no one seems happy, but everyone want to get married?
Right. It's because there's all the lovers in the street that you've noticed.
Yes, they're like, we can't afford to live alone. Please, let's get married. That's what's happening.
How did you meet this guy, if I may ask?
Oh, I've known he's an oldie but goodie. He was the boyfriend or fling that I left when I moved to LA.
Okay.
But when I moved back, he's like, hey, guess who's still here? I tell girls who are looking for their forever guy, their person, go back to your hometown. Everyone partner that they either passed up, broke up with, or were like, I don't see you that way, they're all at home. Go back home. I came back home, and the hottest guy I've ever seen in my life is the one that is still here. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, I still want you. So I'm like, okay, let's try it out. So it worked out well.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Because so many
Everybody's
people
hometown.
you leave your hometown because you're like, there's no one here.
Yeah. And then I'm like, just go back. He's right there. He's waiting on you at 7-Eleven.
It is funny because for me, it wasn't in my hometown exactly, but when I came, because I'm from California, I lived in New York, but when I moved back to California, that is when I met my husband now husband, but it was like I lived in New York. Nothing happened in all those years in New York. And then I came back, and that's when it's like my life kind of started.
Yeah, me too. When I was in LA, I gave it a very good try to find love and date properly, and it was going nowhere. As soon as I come back to the East Coast and the smell of, hey, I'm okay with not dating anyone, they're like, oh, no, we want you. Like when I let go and stop looking and staring, they're like, oh, you want to go out? I'm like, what? All this attention. Where was that shit when I was in Cali?
Right.
You know?
And I actually I remember saying to him, because I just wanted to be friends at the beginning, even though I was very drawn to him, but I said, like, I'm in such a weird place in my life right now. I'm living in my childhood bedroom. Like, I don't think it would be wise for me to start dating. Like, I'm on such shaky ground.
Yeah,
like, that's how much I was not in a place to date.
Yeah, me too. When I moved back, I didn't call him when I first moved back because I knew I had to have my head right, my heart right, because he's going to be like, we're a couple. So I'm like, don't call him until you are ready to not date anyone again ever. Right. So I didn't call him for like 3 months. And then when I finally did, I'm like, oh, okay. He's ready. And I'm, very single.
So how long had you guys gone out before originally, how long did you guys go out?
We weren't boyfriend and girlfriend. I met him in college, but I married and dated somebody else because he was that dude who was not commitment interested. And he went to the military, blah, 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 that guy. But we were always friends when I would come back to New York to visit, but we weren't a couple. But then when I moved back, he'd always be the guy who would call me when I'm traveling, like, hey, I'm in Dubai, hey, I'm in Texas. He always wanted to say hi. But then when I came back, he's like, you've got to let me have a chance. Like, he was really adamant about it. And I'm like, okay, well, we're a lot older now. Not much time left. We might as well just see how this works out.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay, I tell girls, go back home.
Go back home.
Go back home.
That's so smart. I wouldn't have thought of that advice because the advice is always like, go to a city, get out of wherever you're from.
I know, that's why it's different. It's like, hey, you're from Iowa? I bet you there's a hot guy who loved you in Iowa. And and even if it's not Iowa, but whatever random, so many women have been like, you know what? I'm gonna give Mike a call.
Yeah.
From wherever she's from. It happens a lot.
All right, let's do a couple just mere everyone's that people sent in on Twitter. Okay, Dr. Steph says, just mere everyone. Everyone I know has COVID again right now. I mean, out in LA, it is everywhere right now. We had managed, it's like I don't know what it's like where you are right now, but it's surging. It's crazy here right now. Everyone has it.
I'm coming to LA on Sunday. Why every time I want to come to LA, there's a surge. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's pretty, I don't know if I was going to say, I don't know if it's like a little better now than a couple weeks ago, but no, we're like headed toward mandatory masking indoors again here because we're like in the high level again. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had made it this far into the pandemic without getting it. And then we went to Tucson, which is, I think, where we got it. I would, just wear a good mask and, be careful. Yeah.
I know. I'm at the point now where if you were to ask me if I have COVID, I'd be like, I don't know. I feel fine.
Well,
I've never gotten a positive test. I've been tested, God knows how many. Never gotten but I'm pretty sure I've had it. Mm-hmm. But when I had it, I didn't have a reason to go. I was home and probably sick and like, this clearly must be it. But then when I had work, I'm like, oh, I got to get tested a lot.
Yeah.
But I tested all the time if I'm home and not around anyone.
Right. I got sick like a couple months ago and I was like, this has got to be it. But it wasn't. But then my 3-year-old got very sick and was tested and that was COVID and that's when the whole family got it. That little shit. Okay. So let's see. Phil Scroggs says, whenever I go for a walk or a run, I always match my pace to the beat of whatever song is playing in my headphones at the time. I think that's everyone.
That's everyone, especially when you're in the gym on a machine and you're bored out your mind.
You have to.
That elliptical is all to a song.
A Kimmy thing says, just mere everyone, I can't tell the difference between Chris Hemsworth, Chris Pine, and Chris Evans. I know they are all good-looking Chris's. That's it. And then
you need to pay attention, girl.
Yeah, let's see.
I can.
I'm looking at them.
They're hot as hell, but I know them apart.
Which is your favorite Chris of those three?
Core. I want the big one.
Okay, that's Hemsworth, right?
Yes.
All right.
Liam, who's that? What are the names? Liam is the brother.
Yeah.
Chris is the one with the beautiful eyes. He Wonder Woman dude. And who's the other one? Chris Evans. Captain
Chris
America.
Evans. Yes.
She can't tell them apart.
I guess not.
Not trying. All three hot as hell. She can't tell? Okay.
Okay. And then Eric says, if I'm ever watching TV and a map of the USA is displayed, my eyes immediately go to where I live on the map, and I basically ignore every other location that might be talked about. You narcissistic motherfucker.
Okay. That's like kind of like, well, that's kind of like an actor. And by actor, I mean me. Like when I have when I have a job, I'm like, okay, la 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 la. Where am I? There you go.
Yes. Yes.
That's every actor.
I recently listened to a podcast, and they mentioned me a couple times. And like once they mentioned me a couple times, the whole, I actually haven't, once I listened a little bit longer and I'm like, are they going to mention me anymore? And then I'm like, I think they are clearly not going to mention me anymore. And then I was done with the podcast episode. Otherwise, I would have listened to it though. But then I was like, now that I've gotten a taste of hearing myself, it's all I want to hear about.
I feel bad too, because I think I'm currently on Flatbush Misdemeanor. There's a show on Showtime, a recurring role. And the EP, the person who is his show, Dan Perlman, he always sends me like the latest clip to promote the latest episode, right? And I've only been reposting it when there's a clip that I'm in, and I feel like a complete asshole. Like, Jackie, promote the whole show, not just your episodes. But I'm like, but I want to post the ones that I'm in.
Yes.
But that's really, but if I want to be considered for the show, if it comes back, I got to promote the show overall. But I'm like you, I'm done. So why would I watch anymore? Because you're proud of the whole show. You work
That's
for
right.
it. The whole show is great.
Mm-hmm.
Not just about me.
I had something happen to me recently, which I don't normally have this happen, which is I was on another podcast and they selected an image that of me, which I did not like. And I was like, well, now I got to promote this and use this photo of me that I find to be very unflattering. What do I do? And I had insight into like, oh my God, now I think I must know how other people feel probably if I use a photo they don't like.
I'll look you up. Like whenever I promote a show or I'm doing a show and it's my flyer that I got to make, I'll Google them. But the ones who are vain, like I know who they are, or they might be. So I'm like, you send me a picture because I know the one that I'm going to get, you're going to have a problem with.
Yeah, it made me realize I should probably always do that.
Yeah, and the ones that I know are Googleable, the headshots, at least they're professional photos.
Right.
There's a lot of crap, but there's so many of me that are done by a pro that people can find that before they, resort to the ugly ones.
See, and here I took screen grabs of us because I like to get the au naturel shots.
I love it. I'm not vain. I don't care. I'm at the age I'm like, this is it.
I have to tell you, because I like everything sparkly, I loved your pants in your special Menoplause.
Banana Republic clearance during the pandemic. I got them in black. I got them in bronze. And I just bought the pleated skirt. They got a pleated skirt.
Oh, my God.
Banana Republic. Whenever you see things that are shiny like that on sale, girl, buy it. You will never regret it.
What are they? Sequins? Are they little studs? Like what is?
They're
are they crystals?
Sequined. They're fully sequined.
Oh my God! You guys watch the special because watch the special Menoplause on all your streaming services because it is hilarious, and also because you got to see these pants. They're very sparkly.
Whenever I wear them anywhere, the women are like, the pants! I get like attacked in the streets.
When you saw them, were you just like, oh my God, these are my pants for the special?
Yes, we were on lockdown and I was depressed and my friends were sad, but I'm like, but shopping was honestly how I got through it. Mm-hmm. I spent probably enough to pay off my student loans, but I don't care because these pants, the reaction they get makes it worth it.
Jackie Fabulous, it was so nice having you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Tell everyone where they can find you, what they should look for. Do all your plugs.
Okay. JackieFabulous.com to get the shortcut to find all my socials. But my handle is at Jackie Fabulous on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I will be at the Blue Note in Honolulu, Hawaii on August 10th. Wow. I need you guys to come see the show. Tell your friends and family because it's really far. And I don't want to have a light audience. I want everyone to be out there. And the Cellar in Vegas, I'm there the week after next. And then next week, I'm in LA at the Comedy Store, Laugh Factory. Just follow me on social media, and you'll be able to come and see me because I'll be performing a lot.
Do it. Do you bring the will the pants be making an appearance?
No, those pants are like for serious work pants. Those are like my no. Those are
Yeah, you
serious
got to do your
work pants.
yeah. You need more. These are your fun casual show pants that you'll be
Yeah.
bringing or something else.
I also forgot. I have my comedy album came out the day or two after the special. It's called.
Great.
It's also called Menoplause, and it's everywhere you can buy an album, and on my website. So Menoplause the special, Menoplause the album.
Everyone get that. I was laughing out loud multiple times.
Yay.
And listen, if you like what you're hearing, or even if you don't, please make sure you are subscribed, tell a friend, leave us a nice comment on Apple Podcasts, 5 stars, or wherever you're listening. You can review it. Follow me on social media at Allison Rosen on Twitter and Instagram. I'm also on Patreon, patreon.com/Allison Rosen. There's all different reward levels. You can get bonus episodes of The Friend Zone, my Patreon podcast. Lots of juicy gossip and other stuff. There's a level where you can text me and I'll text you back. Live streams, blah, blah, blah. So much stuff.
Patreon.
Yeah, subscribe for a year, get 2 months free, and listen to my other podcasts, Upworthy Weekly and Childish. That one I do with Greg Fitzsimmons, and Upworthy Weekly is my lighthearted news podcast that comes out on Saturdays. And I know I'm forgetting stuff, but so be it. Okay. Jackie, thank you so much. It was so great getting to talk to you. Listeners, thank you for listening. I love you. You matter. Goodbye.
Hey, do you know about the Allison Rosen show? We had a good time, but now we gotta go. Yeah, Allison Rosen.